This installation is called Patterns of Growth. It has in its heart a 11-week embryo, and this sits in the middle of a Fibonacci spiral. I've been fascinated with the Fibonacci series and the Fibonacci spiral since art school, really, and even before that, when I first discovered it at school. But the source of inspiration for this piece was reading a rather crackpot scientific theory about morphic fields by a scientist called Rupert Sheldrake. The idea of a morphic field, things around and about us, like the fact that we don't really understand gravity and how it works. There is this potential, there might be these morphic fields. And as a sculptor, this is fascinating. The idea that there could be a field, a strength of a memory of different forms that have existed. And his idea in embryonic development, we tap into these pre-existing forms, and it helps the cells and our bodies to arrange themselves. So we are tapping into our ancestors' forms. And the idea that a form, once it exists, and the more it exists in reality, will create morphic forms, which if it were true, would give a sculptor rather a lot of responsibility, because then one might not just be creating sculptures by one's work, one might also be creating morphic fields, which is quite an interesting idea. The sculpture itself is hanging above a circular plinth, which for me is very reminiscent of the circles of a Petri dish, or the circular viewfinder at the bottom of a microscope. The thing that also interests me is the shadows one gets from the piece. Within science, a lot of the time we can't see things directly, we only ever see their shadows or their reflections. And for me it's that dichotomy between what might be truth, scientific fact, and what we can see through the scientific process of viewing. There is the reality of the sculpture, and then there's what we might see of it and how we can extrapolate between the two. This piece took a while to make. It's very difficult creating sort of perfect mathematical curves in what is a very sort of artisanal way, using quite soft copper rod and the brass rods for the spines. I had a very large drawing of the Fibonacci spiral and measured out the spines and the curve as I went, and it took us a lot of trial and error to work out how to get the various bits of this sculpture to kind of fit in together and to stay long enough to be able to be put together accurately and neatly and have a certain aesthetic. But there are certain things I was quite pleased with. I developed these little sort of brass collars to attach the spines to the copper rod, and it was quite fun sort of developing solutions to these quite difficult problems that have a sort of aesthetic charm to them.